to the point that that's why we can still look at it today and see a new meaning to it. We were never supposed to take every word as literalness. Just look at the beginning of Genesis. Adam and Eve have a child, Cain, have a second child, Abel. Cain kills Abel, have a third child, Seth. All humanity descends from Adam and Eve and their 3 sons. Tell that to an evangelical and watch them squirm. Especially when you talk about same-sex issues. We know they did not procreate among themselves and there was not incest in their mother. At least that's not what the text is telling us. And so we have to acknowledge the allegory is that this is the story of our beginning and there are other people there. Otherwise, where did they come from? It doesn't make any sense. And so, what's his name again? Yochai. Shimon ben Yochai saying to Akiva, you're out of your freaking mind. Okay? But he's doing it with respect. Likewise, Son of Man, the inhabitants of these ruins upon the ground of Israel, this is Ezekiel. So he's talking about their Babylonian exile, and he wants to reaffirm that they're going to come home. Okay? Abraham was one. He inherited the land, and we are many. So the land is given as a heritage. So what it gets down to is that they're arguing with each other about what is literal and what is allegory. That's all they're arguing. So what's the halakha? The halakha, who is hero Israel? It's all of us. And so they go list by list by list. And so what do they get to here? They actually get to the destruction of the first temple. And that all this is what happened here. And then finally they say, write for yourself the name of the day, this very day. The king of Babylonia, has come against Jerusalem to besiege this very day. Thus Rabbi Akiva and I say the fast of the 10th and the 5th of Tevet, when the report came to the exile that the city had been smitten, as is written, and get all that. So what it comes down to, in Judah, they fast for the act, meaning the initial attack or the final siege. And in Galil, the north, they fast when they finally got the report. In other words, what's the practical halakha? You need to do what you need to do whenever you find out that you need to do it.
That's me.
Where is that?
The phone's charging.
Oh, you're charging. That's right. I forgot. Don't worry. You need to take it?
No.
Okay. Does it charge?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll get it afterwards. So what does all this have to do with anything? I know it's a lot there, and I want to leave time for the last one, which is because I think you'll enjoy it. And that when it says hero Israel, it's for all of us. We don't exclude any of the line of the people, because anybody has the opportunity to come back. Anybody has the opportunity when they hear the word, when they learn it, and so forth. And again, I'm not trying to be so esoteric theologically, hear the word. But what I'm saying is, when in the month of January-ish, when we celebrate the 10th of Tevet, we don't, actually the word is not, I'm sorry, I said the wrong word, not celebrate, commemorate the 10th of Tevet, which is a minor fast day. Minor fast means you fast from sunrise to sunset versus sunset to sunset. It is the fast that commemorates the beginning of the final siege of Jerusalem. And then that siege started on the 10th of Tevet, and it went until the 17th of Tammuz. The 17th of Tammuz, July-ish, when the walls of Jerusalem were being sieged. In other words, now the walls are being sieged. 3 weeks later, on the 9th of Av, the temple falls. Okay? So the 17th of Tammuz is a minor fast. The 9th of Av is a major fast on the same lines of observance as Yom Kippur. Okay. Now, the last one is the Midrash Tanhuma, which is part of the Ta'anaim. The line from the Tanhuma is Hashikur noten eno bakos v'ha'chen bani noten eno bakis. The drunk sets his eye on the cup, while the storekeeper sets his eye on the pocket. That's the saying, the teaching. Now, where is this coming from? So the text from Leviticus, this is Parashat Shemini. This is Jack Stone's performance report coming up. And God spoke to Aaron, saying, drink no wine or other intoxicant, you or your sons, when you enter the tent of meeting, that you may not die. This is the law for all time throughout the ages, for you must distinguish between the sacred and the profane, and between the unclean and the clean. So you must be sober while doing the priestly job. Why? Because you have to be able to distinguish between that which is pure and not pure, that which is ritually okay and not ritually okay. What happened before verse 8? His two older sons, Nadab and Abihu, went into the tent of meeting and made an offering of a strange fire. God did not approve and zapped them, incinerated them. Now, the Agadic Midrash says the two of them were walking behind Moses and Aaron and said, when are these two schmucks going to retire? I'm tired of being second hand. We should be in charge now. That's the Midrash, the Agadic Midrash. It's kind of funny, actually, because it's such a weird story that the rabbis are going to put the priestly in a negative light. But no, they only put the people who are dead in a negative light. People who are alive, no, we're going to honor them.
So they use the word schmucks?
No, but we're close. Okay? It's a modern interpretation of an ancient Hebrew word. All right. But now the Tanchuma Midrash says this. Do not look at the wine that is so red, for he sets his eye on the cup, bakos. Proverbs 23:31. On the pocket, bakis, is the kativ. The drunk sets his eye on the cup, while the storekeeper sets his eye on the pocket. For he sets his eye on the cup. He sees his friend drinking, and he says to him, pour for me and I will drink. And he soils himself with excrement and urine. It goes down smoothly. In the end, he will sell all his household articles and all his personal articles until he has no clothing or any household articles or anything else, and the house will be completely empty. It goes down smoothly. In the end, he permits transgressions and makes them as available as an open plain. He talks with a woman in the market. He speaks filth and he says bad things in drunkenness, and is not ashamed because his reasoning has been taken from him, and he doesn't know what he's saying and what he's doing. Now, what are we really talking about? We're talking about alcohol. Okay? In the Agadic Midrash, when one drinks and has two drinks, they become a monkey. They become silly. If they have 3 to 5 drinks, they become like a lion, full of pride, anger, stronger in their own minds. And then after that, they become like a pig, slovenly in the mud. That's the Agadic Midrash. So what's the halakha here? The halakha says, be careful what you are drinking and how much you are drinking. Now I need to give you a sidebar before we go through this. Alcohol is not forbidden in Jewish tradition by any fathom of imagination. What is forbidden is for it to be abused. Okay? Aaron's 2 sons, Nadab and Abihu, had entered the tent of meeting, and they present an offering, and God kills them. Okay? The Torah is not. I'm just paraphrasing. A few verses later, we get don't be drinking and just when you enter the tent of meeting. So the rabbis, by the text, are simply deducing that these 2 sections are connected, and that they were drunk and they were killed. Now the text does not say that, but the rabbis interpret that because that's what comes next after the text. In simple English, if you pick up any jar of beer or wine or alcohol, that has that famous warning label. Usually the 2 lines. Number 1, if you're pregnant, you should not drink because it will cause deformities to your newborn child. And 2, if you drink, you should not operate heavy machinery. Okay? You can't drive and all that. Fine. The Midrash goes on to recount the evils of drunkenness. Not merely for those who engage in service to God, but for everyone. A classic biblical passage on this subject is quoted from Proverbs. Do not look at the wine that is so red, for he sets his eye on the cup. It's based on the wordplay on 2 similar sounding words. Kos, which means cups, and kis, which means pocket. So why is a drunkard looking at the cup? Because that's all he's thinking about. Versus the storekeeper is all looking to make money. That's why they're looking at the pocket. That's what they're playing on the words. Okay? Kos, kis. That's all it is. Okay? In the biblical text itself, not merely the rabbis, that suggests this pun. On the pocket, bakis is the ketiv. There are numerous places in the Bible where, following tradition, the word is written one way but read another way. Fear, revere. Read and understood differently. The written version is called the ketiv, from the Hebrew word for write, while the traditional reading is referred to as kari from the Hebrew word read. In certain cases, some suggest a scribal error crept in the text long ago. That is possible. But again, we can only look at what we have. Since we can't be tradition has also preserved the appropriate reading of the word. So rabbis use both words to create a bit of folk wisdom that teaches us a lesson about the person who drinks and the person who sells the drinks. So in other words, now we're getting very specific about the shopkeeper, the liquor store owner.
Thank you.
He's not looking at the drunk, he's looking at the register.
Correct.
Okay, now, I worked in a liquor store for 3 years in college. Great job. State of Texas, couldn't open up before 10 a.m. in the morning and had to be closed by 9 p.m. at night and was always closed on Sundays. Now, I don't know if that's still the case today. I mean, I graduated college over 30 years ago. But it was a fabulous job.
In New York, my family owned a liquor store.
Okay.
8 o'clock in the morning, we opened.
Wow.
And Friday and Saturday, we were open till midnight.
Okay. So I could tell the drunks right away, every single time.
Well, the drunks were at the door at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Not only that, first of all, I usually bought the cheapest liquor possible, but the
Right.
largest size.
Right.
And
North
if you're so
American
drunk, I don't mean
campaign.
drunk. When I say drunk, by the way, I don't mean the people who, because then legally we couldn't sell to them anyway.
Right.
But they're the ones who smell like urine. Because when you have alcoholism to a high degree, your liver can no longer process, so you start secreting urea through your sweat glands. It's a very distinct odor. You cannot miss it. It's very strange, right? And again, liquor store owner is not going, well, I can't sell to you because you're not a responsible drinker. No, as long as you're not drunk at that moment, we have to sell it to you. We don't have to, but we do, right?
It was probably the worst time of my life.
Really?
Working when I bought this.
I enjoyed it. We never had an issue of, I was never fearful of being robbed or anything. We're in a very well-lit area. No, but it's scary. I mean, I know it's very scary.
Yeah.
And the amount of money that flows through is unbelievable. Or product.
Because we were robbed 13 times.
Jeez. And we were told, I mean, someone comes in, here you go, whatever you want, take it.
Not his mother.
You know, but again, my life is worth way more than a jar of alcohol.
Right, absolutely.
But
So,
his mother, a guy came in and said, I guess, give me your money. And
Yes.
she said,
no.
And she was hard of hearing to begin with.
Ah,
So
sorry.
she said, drop dead and get out of here. And he left.
Yeah, so,
That's
anyway.
fine.
So the point is here is that there's a traditional wordplay in our midrash. It's saying here, Yit halech b'mei sharim, which literally means the wine goes down smoothly. It is so good that it makes you totally calm, that you're no longer functional with everything else. Now, just a sidebar. Wine in the Bible, and wine up until the modern period in Judaism, keeping in mind that medieval period going forward, had a much higher alcohol content than we have today. Somewhere in the 20 to 30% range. Whereas today, it's been creeping up. Since Prohibition, when Prohibition ended, wine in this country, on the average for white wine, was usually in the 8 and 9%, and red wines were 10%. Red wine now, good red wine, is now creeping up around 15%, and whites have been creeping up to 10 to 12%. And that's because it's just better fermentation process, better, whatever. And I'm sure intentional too, to keep people happy, but wine alcohol has definitely increased significantly. So the smoothing part here is that, but the rabbis connect the word Mesharim, not related to Me'asharim, which means 100 gates, which is the ultra-Orthodox community in Israel. Mesharim, different word. Smoothly to the word Meshur, a plain or stretch of barren land. In other words, something that is smooth makes you barren, as in you're no longer functional. So the idea is the effect of drunkenness. It will cause a person to lose everything of value, end up empty and barren. Now, we're not talking about a social drinker. We're talking about someone who cannot function without the alcohol. So with the halakha, is you have to be careful when you drink. Because ultimately, if you're going to be holy for I, the eternal, your God, am holy, is you have to be able to tell the difference between sacred and profane. You have to be able to tell the difference of what's right and wrong. If you're drunk, you can't. Okay? Now, what the drash, the further midrash interpretation. There's an old Yiddish saying, Shikser is a goy. Only Gentiles get drunk. Bullshit. Okay? Only Gentiles have drug addiction. Bullshit. You know, we have an AA group here. Meets every Wednesday from 10:30 to 11:30-ish. We have Jews that come to that meeting because I see them. I will not tell you who's there. I will never do that. Hence the word anonymous, right? There's a whole article in here about how they didn't like Jewish reception for the longest time because they made their money in alcohol and they made no money. But then that changed. I joke with our families, when you have a bar mitzvah, let's emphasize the mitzvah, not the bar. Yeah.
They used to say about, Jewish men, they don't drink and they don't run around.
Right, they used to say that. And yet they're all on Jay's way. I'm sorry. So that's the other drosh that they go through. Now, we deal with this question all the time. Should we have wine available on Friday nights? And the answer is I have no problem with it. Because we are not supposed to be the guardian for all the parents. And most of our parents get it. And that's why, I joke about it, but I only do it to make it clear. Please enjoy all the grape juice you would like if you're under 21. Alright? But again, we're only giving you 2 ounces. But obviously some of the kids go, ooh, I'm like, if this is your excitement in life, you have other issues going on here. The other drosh that is here is, no, you cannot have my car. So in other words, God has given us the gift of wine. What's the first drunken in Jewish history? Noah, right? After the flood, he plants a vineyard and he gets drunk. I just saw the entire world destroyed. All that is left is my children and their wives. You know what? I need a drink. Now, I don't want to get into the implication that when things are tough, you, quote, need a drink, but I get it. And the fact that he got so drunk and he was naked, because that the text does tell us he's naked, which then causes 2 of his sons to get mistreated in the lineage, because that's the story we give to them. The Canaanite, son of Ham, and the other son of Japhet are condemned to be our enemies. Okay, they're the progenitors of that, because they saw their father's nakedness and made fun of it. And what did the Aggadic Midrash tell us? Remember, there's no halakhic Midrash in Genesis, is that Ham laid with his father. He raped him in his state of drunkenness. Because again, the rabbis want to justify why we hate them so much. Which I have other issues with. Okay, why do I hate the people based on the actions of one? The same argument I have with members of my family who do not like African Americans because of the actions of one. So that's not fair. The issue of wine here in our text, the halakha says, do not pray in a state of drunkenness. There's one exception, by the way, and that's pouring. But it does not mean drunkenness in this sense. The text says you should drink enough to not be able to distinguish between the blessing of Mordecai and the cursing of Haman. But it's not supposed to be so drunk that you can't even do that. The 4 cups of wine you have during the Passover Seder, not meant to be drunk, but it's meant to be, marking the 4 milestones of the Seder, just so we mark the milestones. It's never meant to be, like that. And the Seder lasts 5-6 hours, you should have enough food in between. You're already exhausted anyway. Yeah.
Well, the Seder was developed over 1,000 years ago, right?
Of course.
So, isn't it true that people in those days drank wine because water was not healthy because it was so impure?
So that's one of the arguments that's been made. What did I just read something recently about beer? Medieval period. Water was not potable or was not healthy, but beer was because of the fermentation process. Whatever else, people drank beer, including children. Victorian England, they did.
Well, it's the alcohol that kills the parasites.
Exactly, right? So it
Even
was
before-
safe.
And alcohol is a preservative.
Right.
Yeah, even before Victorian England is...
No, I'm just saying, but I was reading in context with it.
But in the Middle Ages,
Right.
in England and France...
Mead.
Mead.
Right.
Honey wine.
Yeah. So the answer is possible. It's very possible. It was also very easy to make. Wine was not a difficult commodity to create. So, again, so tonight you had Aggadic Midrashim last time. Tonight I gave you halakhic Midrashim. Both are valid expression of Jewish text. They really are. Okay. We are going to meet again in 2 weeks' time, which is the 22nd of March. Let me borrow your book for 1 second, please. And the next is the medieval Bible commentaries, which we'll take a look at. Medieval Bible commentaries.
And we're not doing poetry?
Biblical poetry, I skipped it. I was honest. Biblical is a small section. I mean, it's not my area of comfort or forte. If you want me to look up some materials for you, I'm more than happy to. But I skipped that piece. We had done the narrative and law, but now we're going to medieval commentaries now.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry, please?
Am I the head usher Saturday morning? Nobody got in touch with me. I hope
This
I'm-
Saturday? There is no. Okay, so I don't know what happened. There's obviously a lot of
I hope I'm off the
miscommunication.
hook.
A lot of miscommunication.